You can see them sitting down. These are the 15 people who have just watched the execution of Charles Campbell. Campbell was hanged a few minutes after midnight. We'll soon find out exactly what time and if he had any final words.
The execution of Charles Rodney Campbell by hanging has been completed. The attending physician announced death at 12:14 a.m. Questions?
What time did he hang? What time was the news? Did he drop? 12:08. 12:08, okay.
He dropped at 12:08. Trapdoor dropped at 12:08.
Okay.
He dropped at 12:08.
Did he say anything?
We did have some sort of order, so
Let's start. Scott.
And tell us who you are and where you're from.
Scott North from the Herald in Everett. Like we said, they sprung the trap at 12:08, declared dead at 12:14. I didn't see any sign of suffering or pain, but I have to tell you that they closed the curtain below the trap door within 30 seconds of the rope snapping tight. Campbell was strapped to a board. He wasn't wearing socks. He was wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. And witnesses, the victim's family, didn't really display much emotion. After the superintendent let us know that he'd been declared dead, Don Hendrickson and Dan Hendrickson turned and patted Renee Wickland's sister. Don nodded his head yes. That's about what I saw.
Tracy Vetter with Creme TV out of Spokane. We understand from Veltri Johnson's report that there was no struggle as Campbell was leaving the holding cell. We were prepared for him not to make any final comments. You heard what Veltri had said before. We were pretty much prepared for him not to make any final comments, which he didn't. We were not prepared, well, we were also prepared that the curtain would never be raised. None of us saw Charles Campbell's face. As witnesses to an execution, I personally have to say that I have a problem with that, because we're there to ensure that, in fact, the sentence that was passed down by a judge is carried out on the person intended. And while I'm not in any way suggesting that the prison switched people up there, I do have a problem with it. We understand that there was no struggle on the way to the gallows area, but myself and several other people saw what appeared to be a struggle or a problem with getting the hood over Charles Campbell's head. It appeared that, to me it appeared that they attempted to put, there were two people, one on either side, they attempted to put the hood over and had difficulty. It appeared that Campbell may have moved his head in somewhere or something. The hood came off. It appeared that one of the correction officers with him somehow held him, I'm not certain how, and then the hood was put back on, and then the noose was put on, and it was a rather slow process getting the noose actually on and in the correct spot. After that, it was very quick. It was very quick. There was no apparent movement by Campbell, and I think Scott pretty well said talked about the reaction of the families of the victims.
You say about how long? I'm sorry, Tracy. About how long was that with the struggle?
Boy, we talked about it back in the room before we came out here, and it seemed, I believe that the people who were watching their clocks thought it was probably close to a minute before it was all put together. We understood that he actually couldn't, he was too weak to walk himself from the holding cell to the gallows chamber. He had to actually be assisted by corrections officers, and then the collapsible board was put on him to, I guess, keep him upright.
Could we back up a little bit? So are you saying that you never saw
Yes.
after he'd been hanged?
No, we
The
never
curtain
saw
was
him
not
before.
open?
No,
We
it was.
never saw him before.
Behind the curtain, we just saw his silhouette.
Oh, okay.
He had a hood on.
I'd like
Sorry, his bushy
to
hair.
add to that. William Miller, spokesman review. I just want to note that we as a group of witnesses, media witnesses, we objected to being unable to see Campbell in full view at any time during the execution. We objected, expressed our concerns to Veltri Johnson, and Veltri Johnson passed those concerns on to the superintendent. But we formally protested and asked that that be changed.
As eyewitnesses to an execution, we felt it was important that we, in fact, be eyewitnesses.
But on the collapse board, you were told that he was too weak to walk, and that's why.
We were told that he was physically so weak that the strap board was required. However, I clearly saw his head appear to move from right to left at least once before the noose was put around his neck, and that to me raises some questions about how weak he was at that point.
Did anyone say why he was so weak? Was it he was starving or what?
I suspect he was scared.
They didn't say.
Veltri, was there a difference between how much this panel was able to see as compared to what the panel for the daughter?
That's the person who was with us both times.
Maybe we can ask Terry.
The only difference was that Dodd had some last words, and so the curtain was raised, and we did see his face, and he said his last words on. He was turned around, and it was obvious that it was the same person, and the hood was placed, and the noose was placed, and he dropped in full view of us. This time, Mr. Campbell, since he declined to have last words, and I guess because of that, the corrections officers thought that there was no need to draw the curtain, so.
So they were closed the whole time?
Yes.
Just the upper.
The upper.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that there will be a death certificate that is issued for Charles Rodman Campbell, who was executed here at the institution this evening, and that an autopsy on the same individual will be performed through the auspices and the offices of the Walla Walla County Coroner.
My name is Patrick Heald. I'm from KPBX Radio in Spokane. I was sitting in the front row, the second seat from the left. When Mr. Campbell dropped, I leaned forward and I specifically looked for any signs of struggle or movement after he had dropped. His head, if it cleared the trap door, barely cleared it. He's a very tall individual. And I looked, he swung slowly to clockwise. There appeared to be no movement on his part at all. I saw, as the hood was attempted to being placed on his head, I saw his head move to the left at least once. Whether it was a voluntary movement or not, I don't know. But I did see his head move to the left. It took 4 cinches to get the noose knot down, by my count, and as before with Mr. Dodd, the minute that noose was tightened, the trap was sprung. We did wait in the viewing chamber for, I believe, 6 minutes between the time we were seated and the time that Mr. Campbell was brought in.
I have a little longer.
A little longer?
I think it was longer than that.
I have 10 minutes.
I don't. As I said, we didn't get in. Anyway, we waited quite a while.